Time and time again, I done seen people cut their briskets up, get it all trimmed up, and take away all those scraps and toss them right in the garbage. But today, I'm gonna show you what you can do with them scraps, making some homemade brisket sausage. Let's get right to it. All right, cut that music. It's late night, and I'm about to piss the whole household off. Y'all want to make some sausage? I'm looking at a pack that I've been sitting on, man, from my boys over here at Bearded Butchers in Ohio. It's almost time for me to go back and check on the family, and I need to use this up so I can make sure I can stop back by there and have something to do. And I noticed that my best if used by date is coming up as well. I got plenty. If you look over here at this lump of bags, brisket scraps, random bags. We're gonna blend some of these brisket scraps up, another bag. I got a few packs of these. This is when I did some of that bacon, which was also done Bearded Butcher style. This was already cured and everything. And this was like some of those end pieces, thicker pieces that I had. Bearded Butcher's black right there. This one here is the natural. Had that pecan seasoning on there after being cured. And I want to say it's like another one or two of them in here. It's that cinnamon swirl, little sweet one. I'm gonna add them in there too, man. I'm trying to clean out my freezer. Be sitting on these too long. This, I believe, was a Snake River Farms Wagyu brisket I had, because I remember I was sitting that to the side. It's all going in. I think I roughly got about 12 pounds of meat, 12 and a half, maybe 13. This right here actually works, if you can see right about there. This whole pack, which is 10 and a half ounces, actually seasons up 25 pounds of meat. So my guess is I'm hoping that I can use about half of this pack right now, save half of it, and then hopefully if I do a good job, be able to do it again. Now, one thing I did not do was, I've been saying it for a while, when I start doing my brisket trimmings, I'm gonna do a better job of actually cutting it up, and then once I get done with it, splitting it from the meat and the fat, and then having me two separate bags of mostly meat and then fat, just to make it a little easier to come up with that 70-30 ratio, which is normally what you want when you're making sausage. We straight eyeballing. I'm using everything as is. You see we got some fat, while this bag don't look too bad. When I get into some of these other bags, and I know sometimes I'll save some of those end pieces when I first trim the brisket, there's some big pieces of fat in here, so I might be a little bit heavy. So I wanted to add a little something to it and to make sure I had a little bit more quality meat. So I got a boneless bottom roast right here that I actually caught low-key on a deal at my grocery store. A little bit leaner, but nothing else. I know I should be bringing that back, hopefully to get me closer to that 70-30 ratio. Putting in some good quality meat as well, so it's not just brisket scraps and stuff like that. Let me make sure I got some meat in there so I can actually get some stability to that sausage. So we're gonna grind that up in there too. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna start breaking this thing down. I gotta put this grinder together. Normally you'll put these parts in the freezer to make sure they're nice and cold, so that way when you're working with this meat you don't get so much sticking. We're not doing everything tonight, so I'm only worried about the grind, and some of these bags actually got some semi-frozen pieces in there, so I think that'll take care of me. I'm gonna assemble this thing, get it all together. I'm gonna be using my widest die right there, and then we'll grind it through. Yeah, I might go ahead and do 2 times just to make everything pretty, but let me put some things together and give myself a little bit of room. All assembled, and I've said it before, got a couple videos on it, man. This KitchenAid grinding set works pretty damn well. I never had to get into anything more stronger than that. I can't say that I'm sitting around grinding all the time, but for the few times I've needed it, it works more than well enough, and it takes care of the business pretty quick. So that's what we're gonna be using. Just to kind of show you here, I got my scale, and I'm just throwing my big old bowl on here. And you can't quite see it because I can barely see it. There we go. 1.34 is how much that weighs. So normally you would tear that off, and then basically you would be at 0. So when you add that meat in, you get an idea of exactly how much you're looking at. But we know that we will subtract about 1.3 from what we get. So I got everything out. Move some things out the way. I'm going to pretty much start with one of these bags that's a little bit more accepting, because like I said, I had some that's a little bit more frozen, so I'll save it for the end. We'll knock out this one right here first, and then I'll slide into these individual bags, and somewhere in the middle I'll kind of mix in some of that good old-fashioned lean. But let me show you what we're gonna do here. And I'm just gonna get this thing going about halfway, more or less. Usually works pretty well. And all we're gonna do is start loading them up. Like I said, this is usually that first piece I kind of trim off that brisket. Once you start getting it going, I usually don't have to use my plunger too much. It'll kind of catch on and start dragging it right through. Just like you see. And all I'm gonna do is keep on adding chunks up there. And I'll start with the ones I can feed in by hand without having to do no trimming. And then we'll kind of go at it from there. And that won't take too long. As you kind of see, I can't keep up with it. A lot of times this is a two-man job where you can have one person feeding and one person just kind of checking things out. But I'm always a one-man army. But showing you that I can do this with one hand while we film and let you know that it's pretty easy overall as far as the process to get this thing grinded. Let me knock out the rest of this bag and then I'll show you what it looks like. And that's about one bag there. One thing I will throw out there is, that looks pretty, man. So I don't know, is that 70-30? I mean, I feel like it probably close, but I always feel like if you get too fatty of a sausage, it's no good. I'd rather end up meaty, I guess, than anything. And like I said, I think by the end it's going to come out. But there is one bag, and one thing I was going to say, especially using this KitchenAid, which is not like super powerful, but it's more than enough. Taking the time to make sure that you got some pieces that are more smaller so that they easily feed down this tube is definitely the way to go. You don't want to overwork this motor because obviously this thing would burn out probably easier than a commercial grinder. And as when it's super frozen, it is a lot harder for it to get through. So to be honest, I would like something super cold, maybe just coming away from being frozen or something like that. I know they're always pushing in a lot of videos and things like that you might see, or even the pros of using this thing pretty cold, having this stuff meat pretty cold and everything. I think in the end, they're doing a lot of those steps right on hand. I'm going to end up letting this sit. This is going to get broke down over a couple days, so I'm not too worried. So I would say if you want to freeze your components, that's one thing. But my meat itself, I would leave it where it's closer towards room temp, but at least just cold out of the refrigerator. That way it's not so hard on the motor, especially if you're using this KitchenAid. With that said, I'm coming with this bag next. Okay, we got that big bag done, and as you can see, I ended up taking some of this fat off. Look, it was just so much extra on there. And I got to the end, that was like a big meat piece. As you can see that nice and redness, but you can see how I got nice and white in there. So again, I think my fat content is going to be more than enough. Looks like I'm going to be making a lot of sausage, y'all. So I hope these come out good, and I hopefully somebody want to play, because I'll be able to give a couple of these away. We're going to start to work in some of this bacon. This bacon should hopefully give us another good flat in there, but also some more flavor to kind of add in. Obviously, like I said, all of those have been already seasoned. They've also been already taking the time and went through the whole curing process. And then I still got another bag of brisket back. And then I still got to chop him up, get rid of this. It's going to be full by a minute. All right, let's start with some of this natural bacon. And that Bearded Butcher's cure on this bacon was phenomenal. So I'm hoping it's going to carry over to give me just a little bit of extra flavor. Flavor Dava. Lots of bacon fat, obviously. Take that right on up out of there. So we just adding more fat to the party. More flavor to the party. Come in here with my Bearded Butcher's black bacon, which was my favorite of all of them. Look at that. That bacon don't even look like there's no meat in it, right? Let's see how these pieces kind of work out. But that's bacon for you. Mostly fat. Like I said, I'm taking this for the flavor. I come back, I got a little something that's going to get us to the... Give me that back. Get us to the meat that I need. Yep. job is to give me the flavor. And we're going to do a double grind. That's going to help us with mixing all of this up. And then we'll get it seasoned. And I'm going to let it go ahead and sit overnight. Man, I can smell that coffee coming up off of that Bearded Butcher's Black. Last piece of that. And I got some cinnamon coming next. There's all the bacon. Haven't even used the plunger, it's just feeding itself. Now I'm gonna go with some of this Wagyu brisket, I believe is in here. Running like a big dog. Okay. And now I think while we kind of finishing up that last little bit, I still got a whole nother bag of brisket scraps. But I think this would be a good time to add in, especially after all that bacon fat, some of that good old-fashioned roast. Obviously, these chunks is going to give us a lot more rib as we push through. There we go. And make sure you get into some sizes that easily kind of feed. At the end of the day, it'll make all of this go faster. And team, I want to jump in here real quick. I hope you're enjoying this video. Take a second, like, subscribe, check out any other videos you've missed, and stay tuned for some more. Let's go. Man, it ate that right on up. Taking it right down, no sweat. This looks like so much meat. All right, sheesh. What a lot of meat. Trimmed off those last ones pretty tight, so I wouldn't be too bad on that fat content. That's the last couple pieces going in. And the one thing I like to do to really finish this thing out, make sure I get pretty much all my meat out, as you can see, it's pushing straight through. Like I said, there's plenty of power in here. I'm going to chase it with one ice cube. And it was a little bit broken up, but kind of get that in there. That just helped push out that last little bit. Won't hurt nothing a bit. See now the ice starting to come through, so most of my meat and stuff is there. And look at that. Wow. Okay, I had to actually go to my bathroom to weigh this thing because it was a little too much for the digital scale I had right over there. 13.6 pounds, including the bowl. We subtract back out that 1.3, which gives us pretty close to 12.5 pounds, which means that that should be exactly about half of that package. Which covers 25 pounds of meat. I swear this looks like a hell of a lot more than 12.5 pounds of ground beef, but hey, that's how it's gonna be. I need to find another bowl that is huge like this, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get this one more pass through. That'll kind of help me with mixing that bacon and some of that higher grade meat in with some of that fattier meat, and then we should be good to go. We'll mix in those seasonings by hand, and like I said, this is gonna hang out. All right, I got the old school bowl to remind me of my grandma, old Tupperware. I'm sure this won't take much, but let's run through. Second pass, we might need the masher now. Since we got more mush, it's easy to grab through on that full meat. But you'll actually need to kind of push it through to get this to go. And I'm just kind of grabbing all the way through, so that way hopefully I start grabbing different pieces. And we just gonna start kind of incorporating all together. I'm gonna need both hands. Like I said, I'm gonna load up, mash through, and I'll show you what I'm looking like. Ooh, almost done. Definitely takes a little bit longer on this side with the feeding process and everything, but it's working like butter. You can definitely see that we are well mixed after that second one comparatively, which will help out a ton. There are a lot of people that will actually season this meat up when it's just meat as itself, big chunks of meat, and then once they do the grind, they kind of get everything kind of mixed up. Then definitely would have worked well. I'm going with this route here, which is I'm going to go through, grind everything up, and then I'm just going to be using my hands to kind of mix everything up well, and then we're going to let it sit more or less all together before we come back, grab us some casings, and we start the sausage routine. Be a big old-fashioned, good old-fashioned sausage party. And for all of y'all out there with a horrible, dirty mind, that's exactly what I'm talking about, sausage party. We're going to make this thing happen. But look at all that ground meat we got here. I just about fed everything through. I'll give it one mush. I was just using my fingers, kind of moving it over while we were talking. That's everything. Right, getting my water ready, getting the cleanup process going while we're cooking, and I'm gonna tell you what, adding that ice cube in made all the difference. When I went and took this component off of here and took it all apart, there was barely any leftover meat and stuff like that in there, which normally for people that have done it before, you can have a ton stuck in your inside. So good way to make sure you get everything. Obviously a little ice, a little bit of water ain't gonna hurt this at all. Keep everything nice and cold. We're going to be going to this next portion, which is I'm breaking down this bag. Like I said, it holds up to 25 pounds, or this would actually take care of 25 pounds of meat with this whole bag, which is 10.5 ounces. So since I got about 12, roughly 12 and almost 12.5 pounds, I need half of this bag for the seasoning. So I'm going for 5.25 ounces. So let's switch this over. As you see, it's on pound. I'm just going to switch the unit over to OZ. Grab my bowl sitting on top, hit the old tear, and now let's add the Bearded Butcher's Tailgating Brat Seasoning. Okay, and now I got the bag open, and I can tell you this sauce smells amazing, or seasoning smells amazing. 5.25. Getting close. Whoop. 5.26 will bake it. Man, that smells amazing. What did they say? Okay, now that you got these flipped into two separate piles, roughly about halfway apart, I am just going to use probably about 1/4 of this. Give me a nice top covering. Probably was a little too heavy. Boom. Okay, let's get to mixing. All right, there is the finished product. Took a little bit of time, but well worth the work. Smells amazing, and I really do feel, just from looking at the consistency and feeling it going through my hands, that we got a pretty decent blend of meat to fat overall. And I also wanted to make sure that I got all my meat out of there, because obviously it takes time to accumulate this much brisket scraps before it gets old in your freezer, ends up freezer burn. But I think we're good to go on this. Everything looks good. We're going to throw a little bit of aluminum foil over the top, saran wrap, whatever you like. I'm going to let this hang out in the refrigerator overnight. Catch you back tomorrow. And here we are the day after. I got my hog casings over here. I actually was able to go to my local butcher, and they had these already fresh. I believe they pretty much already cleaned them too, so when I get them, they're in a small little plastic container that he made just for me based off of how much sausage I was going to get. Literally only paid about a little over $8 for these here, and I'm sure there's a little bit of extra on there. This is one long huge one, so I like this method if I can get the fresh ones versus I know I've done a video before where you can get them in the package. They already got a ton of salt on them, and you got to kind of more or less soak them for a while to bring them to life. So those there are fun if you've never done it. Pretty much you want to go from the end, make sure that you get plenty of water inside of that casing and run it back and forth, and then from there you kind of go ahead and let them soak, get rid of a lot of that salt, switch the waters out a few times, and then once you start actually getting some clear water like you see here, you pretty much be ready to go. I've already got the KitchenAid kind of switched over. Got the sausage making nozzle on here. I got 2 of them. I went with the smaller one, which is usually what I go with. And the star of the show is out of the refrigerator. Had more than enough time to sit up. Smells just like some good beef jerky or something like that. I'm gonna give it a few workovers and kind of get it moving around since it's been sitting and my fridge outside is pretty cold, and get it nice and tacky. After we go ahead and get this off and get this on, and we'll kind of time everything up. See some juices coming to the top. I usually would throw a little bit of olive oil or avocado oil right here on the spigot, and normally if you get you a surface, you want to get a little bit of water out here. Everything just kind of slides a little bit better as you're going along, as you'll kind of see in a minute. But first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and let's work on the meat. And I'm happy I went ahead and started there, because like I thought, that was pretty cold. Not necessarily frozen, but definitely clunked together. So break that up, start letting some of that get some moisture, but it's also going to pack into this sausage nicely. Now let's slide over here to this casing. I'm gonna get some oil, like I said, up here on this tip just a little bit. I'll put a little bit more water down there in the pan, but a lot of this is gonna happen naturally. But we're gonna come from the tip, and I'm just gonna go ahead and start right on the edge and slide it on, and we're just gonna rotate it all the way through and back until we put this whole casing on here. This is actually pretty sturdy. Once you know what it is, I mean, it's made to contract and expand, but just don't be too crazy with it. And this is pretty smooth as well. And you can see we just got that on. Transfer this bowl right to be over here. And then from there, we pretty much just gonna try to keep that more in the center. It'll slide on there a lot easier. When you start having it draping down, it'll usually start pulling a little bit. Even one-handed, you can kind of easily see what we're doing here. We're gonna work this thing all the way on and push it back. And it's gonna be ready to work here in just a minute. Alright, that took nothing but a second. I actually had two casings in there. So that's probably good because this was definitely getting close to the end. I left a little bit in there for a little bit of room as we kind of filling up in the beginning. But now we're going to reverse osmosis this thing. We're coming from here, packing right in the top, and it's coming out. And we're going to be filling this out. I'm going to get rid of this bowl for right now. And we'll be using this tray initially. I'm not worried about trying to link it up. I just want to get it all into the casing. From there, we can easily fix it and kind of form it together, and we'll come together with our links. And then as you can see here, we kind of got it going a little bit down here at the bottom. Don't worry about it. Starts off horrible, kind of get my feel for it. You kind of learn and kind of get your thickness down, and we're going to clean all of that up later on. But really, we're just trying to get it into the casing. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of holding it, backing it off, and I'm going to slowly start feeding it in. And then once I get to the thickness I want, if I let it go, it will go on its own, and it'll run off my casing. But you can just kind of hold it in place, get it a little thicker, and then slowly but surely you kind of just start to feel it in your hand of when to kind of let it start working its way down, and you'll start to actually get pretty close and even. Like I said, I don't always come out perfect like the pros, but in the end, we'll be able to shape it up and we'll end up with the perfect looking. We are just about through that first casing. I wanted to stop at the end. That thing started off super ratty, and then obviously I started getting my flow. Was able to start getting to a nice fat thickness. Now those are pretty thick. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually finish this all the way pretty much to the end with just a little bit of slack, so I can tie it off and everything. And I'm gonna leave it nice and thick. Reason being, if you remember in the beginning, it was super small. I got plenty of room as we start moving this thing forward and inching it through. Basically, once I tie off on this end, we still got it open at the other. We'll be able to kind of scoot everything along, start to make our even sides and everything. I only got a little bit left to play with. What I think I'm gonna actually do is leave that separate, and that'll be just some sausage that I can actually break apart whenever I want it or whatever have you. And that means I don't got to put that second casing on there and go through all of that work again. So what I'm gonna do is finish out this last little bit right here, and then we're gonna get to linking. All the way to the edge. I'm gonna tie it around and tie this thing in a knot, and we're gonna get to work. Okay, spent this thing around. I got me a couple racks out here that we'll be putting these on. So basically, once I go ahead and roll these together, they'll still be linked together, and I'll have them sprawled out back and forth, snaked on these two. And I'll be putting these in the refrigerator. We're gonna have to prick them with a toothpick to let some of these air holes out, and that way they can breathe a little bit. It'll make them nice and tight. And then after they've sat in the fridge open like that on these racks for overnight, up to 24, whatever have you, we'll get a light smoke on them, and these babies be ready to get broke apart. We'll be good to go. So I already got my tied off in here now. Like I said, these are pretty durable, but you could definitely add a little bit of moisture to this too, just so that they're easy to move and everything. But I'm gonna kind of get to work. What I've learned is, and let's see if I can do this with one hand. You can kind of shape this thing. I feel like this is very inappropriate. But as you kind of get to the thickness that you want, and all I'm doing is just kind of pushing it forward, I'm going to pinch and then work my next one a little bit. I'm going to try to get these roughly uniform. They don't have to be perfect. But if I had both hands, I would pinch with my right hand here. I would pinch it off with my left hand here. And once you get both of those pinched off pretty decent, and I'll be able to kind of show you. Just like this. I lost my little helper. She was helping me with the camera a little bit. I got her in training. You'll be able to kind of get your twist. Don't break trying to show it this way. Let me get a good pinch. There we go. Good pinch back there. Boom. And you were supposed to pinch like right here with my twist. And usually you go the other way. But when you do the 2 pinches out, you can twist them the same way and it'll be fine. I'm just shaping it right now. Boom. Those are our first 2. Bow. Bow. Going right into the rest of it. I'm going to keep working it down. So, right hand, I would shape. Grab with my right and shape. Grab with my left. Twist. You're going to end up with one of them. And we're going to keep going. I'm going to start working this thing and I'm going to open the snake up, put it over there so I got some room to work. And I'm going to show you what I'm working with. Literally, this has only been like a minute or 2. Once you get 2 hands on this thing, I mean, it ain't no playing around. I can run through this whole thing in no time. Been here before. Super easy. And like I said, these casings are pretty strong. As long as you don't do nothing too crazy. Again, I like the natural, especially getting one long one versus those ones that's been sitting in all that salt and that solution, eating away at it. And it's a lot less that I got to get rid of. And they do a lot of my work for me, even though I always come behind them. But still. Let me rock out. I'm going to show you the finished product, but I just wanted to show you a couple lengths. We getting them together. This is a good spot to stop. Rolling along, and I got a small tear. How sad, right? This is all I'm going to do. I'm going to back it back right before that tear, and I'm going to tie this one off. And now I got enough, way more than enough, because this is getting towards the slinky dinky end. I'll tie this one off, and then I'll just start right back up. So you run into a hole, and when you get a hole patch like this, you just want to go ahead and tie off right before that hole, right? Don't try to keep going through it, because eventually it's going to cook out, especially once it starts expanding and everything, and it's going to give you problems. So I'll just tie off right before it, and I'll just have me a short one, no problem there, tie off right after, and restart. And we are down here towards the boo-boo tail, as we're going to call it. Obviously, you see that snap worked off good. And I'm already started on the process, but just so you can kind of see what's happening, and then along the way, once we get everything done, we can come through, make sure we're nice and even. I'm already liking the shape of these, but you know, just to kind of even them off and whatever have you. You could easily do that with your hands, but as you can see, I got this small end, and basically all I'm doing is squishing all of this stuff forward so I can actually make the links that I'm looking to make, and then I can circle them around and kind of go from there. Not going to be too many more, I can tell, with that much left. I mean, I'll be probably looking at maybe about 3 more. Go time, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I had just counted these a minute ago and started doing some other stuff, and I forgot. We can run through it real quick. I want to say I had just about 30 of them. This is the very end. I had to clean up a little bit of a last crack I had and squishing it all down. So you can see I definitely got ear holes in these. So these will be definitely ones where basically all I'm going to be doing is pricking them with a toothpick. Allows this air to be able to escape, and I can go ahead and squeeze it down. And what these skins do is they literally repair themselves overnight. I mean, this is just almost like pores. You're going to notice that it's going to actually tighten up and contract right back on there. These that have been done a little bit longer, you can see how tight they're already setting. I'm going to try my best to not let these touch too much and let these seams do their best to just be sitting there nice and open like that. And what happens is it'll help those break off real easy when it's time to go ahead and do the cutting and everything. Make them nice and tight. But let me get the couple little pokes all throughout with my toothpick, and then we can go ahead and wrap this one up for the night. Okay, I ain't gonna mess with them too much. Squeeze these a little bit. The rest of these I don't really feel like picking up. They look pretty decent anyway. Hardest part is gonna be slipping these babies into the refrigerator. Obviously, you're gonna need you a big area, but then also I got 2 trays. But we'll be doing just like this. They're gonna sit open. I'll see you back, and we'll put some smoke on them. And the last thing that I'm gonna do tonight is, this is pretty much, well, it's not pretty much, this is what I got left. I had 28 of them brisket sausage. Obviously there was some that was big, especially towards the end, some fat long ones. And I'm guessing off the top of my head, this is about 5 pounds, 4 to 5 pounds of sausage left, and I wanted to leave some of it whole. One, I could have used the rest of that last case and put it on and finished it all the way out, but I figured I'd have plenty of sausage. But also I like having just some sausage on hand. I might want to try and make maybe a smoked brisket lasagna. Could be one recipe you think could be coming soon. That could be something I could do with this. And in fact, you know, get in them comments, man, give me some ideas. What do you think that would be a good idea that you'd like to see me cook up smoke with this right here? We got this Italian, just like how Italian sausage would work. This is some brisket sausage, so I'm gonna be leaving this separate. You can patty this up for breakfast sausage in the morning, or like I said, we can come with some lasagna. This could easily go into some type of a chili or something like that. But one way or another, what I'm gonna be doing is, I got my scale out. I'm gonna package these babies up right here into a bag, into some nice 1 pound bags, so I know exactly how much I got. But then that's also an easy way to be able to grab it out the freezer when I'm using it. Clearly my eyeball test was way off. There go 2 bags, and this one here, now that I've been looking at what else I got, I'm guessing this might be about a ½ a pound. Let me group it together. So that means we made a good amount of sausages. This was just about 12.5 pounds of meat when it was all said and done. Ooh, look at that. We're gonna go ahead and say we got 3 pounds. Oh, I got a little something right here. Wow. That didn't help. Perfect. I'll take it. 97, just about. I switched my units out, so I'm on pound right now. So just about 1 pound. Both of those are slightly over a pound, 1.1 or something goofy like that. So basically I had 3 pounds left. I had about 12.5 when I started. So you think we end up making roughly about 9.5 pounds of sausage, if my math serves me correctly. That's a lot of sausage, but I mean at the same time you could buy a sausage that's a pound by itself. So you can definitely stuff a lot in the sausage if you want to. I'm gonna get this last one in the bag, zip these babies up and put them inside another freezer bag, and then I'll get these babies locked down. Okay, 24 hours and some change later, look at my sausages. These babies are solid. Nice and bricked up at this point. That's part of what you get once it's sat up in the refrigerator, all locked in. Flavors have gotten a chance to congeal together. Look at this. This was like one of those last ones, and I was running out of. I didn't want to put the other one on. Look how big this daddy is right here. Let's give you an idea. If I had to guess, that's probably a good 8 inches or so. A little short homie right here. This is actually some of the ones too that had the air bubbles. You can kind of see an air spot there, but after kind of popping them, you see it there, right? You can kind of push them down, and they'll have those holes to kind of fill in. But as you can see, you don't really see any of those holes. But we got these babies sitting out for a hot second. I got my Green Mountain Grill coming up to temperature. Let's go check on that right now. Beautiful day out here in AZ. Yes. It's still a little warm. It just got turned on. So usually, because I'm only going to be cooking at about 170. Right now it's showing me 204. It'll kick up initially on the initial spike and light up, and then it'll calm on down. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to let them sit out for a hot second. I'm going to let this go ahead and come down a little bit more. I see it just went to 203. And in about 10 minutes or so, I'll toss it on. All right, we are all on. I think I said 170 degrees. I bumped it up 2 degrees thinking about my last cook. I think I did 180 degrees on the dial. If I would have had 1 or 2 more sausages, this is 28 right here, I wouldn't have quite had enough room. You can snip early. After a full day in the fridge, they'll probably hold, but I like to go ahead and wait. I'll come back in about an hour. We'll snip everything apart, get them moved around a little bit. Remember, we're not trying to cook these babies. It's at 180 degrees. I hope to get about roughly 2 hours or so in of smoke. We're going to bring these babies up to an internal temperature of 150 degrees before I put it into a quick little flash with some cold water, and then bring them out. They'll be ready to go from there, and then we know we're going to have to cook one up and see what they taste like. I'll bring you back in about an hour. We'll get these babies a flip and a snip, and you should see a little bit more color. A little over an hour. It creeped a little bit. It's at 185. You know, it's always wiggling. Hey, they looking nice and dark. See them sweating out a little bit. It's a little over an hour there. They're looking nice and tight. I am going to snip them apart. You can see this one's here where they had the air bubble in there. A little bit more space. I can see some juice up in there. So make sure you get them nice and opened up. And only hit the little spot where you got the bit of casing, and you should be good. And other than that, I'm gonna move them around. Usually my hotter spots is towards the back, as well as over here in this front area. So I'll make sure I flip them around and also rotate them and get some of them other ones around. All right, so I got everybody flipped around. I try to scoot everybody in a little bit so they're not taking on so much of the hot spot. A lot of these might have a little bit of darkness on there that later on when we actually go, you're doing those cooler smokes, you'll actually see some of that darkness, especially right now since you see all of that juice that's on them, that oil that's somewhat bleeding out a little bit, or sweating out, however you want to look at it. But one way or another, man, it smells great over here. We're slowly but surely getting these babies there. I actually brought it down just a bit to make sure that they don't get over. I want to at least get at least 2 hours of good smoke on here. And then one of these ones that's smaller, one of the ones that's already got skin that kind of busted open, like right there when I was trimming them off. They all clipped off pretty easy. Just kind of lift it up, and you know, once they kind of stretch, clip it right off. I'll probably end up using one of those for the old taste tester. But I'll bring you back here in a little bit. There we go. Now I got my ice water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking the temperature right on the back end, so that way hopefully if I start to the top poking down, there's a lot of juice in these. I don't want all the juice to necessarily squirt out if I can stop it. Won't be able to do that one-handed, but I'll show you what it looks like. But let me get in here and start poking around. False alarm. Most of the ones I was seeing was roughly just like that, 130-ish, which is actually good. That means I'll be able to go ahead and let that whole 2 hours go. I'll throw this in the refrigerator because there's no way I'm getting it in my freezer. And then we'll be back to see y'all in a little bit. Alright, so I'll check in a couple of my temps. We are still not quite there, so I'm going to let them hang out a little bit longer. Getting close on the ones closer to the hate side, and over here we're still in the 140s. So we'll let them keep riding. And actually, I got a couple over here towards the fire, the hot area. Then we're going to start using that. I'm going to get off of here that's actually hitting that 150, and I'll rotate a couple of these softers back over here into this hot spot and kind of start getting everybody through. Now for these few that are already done, I give them a quick second in here to instantly cool off. You can already see my water getting dirty. And now we're just going to give it a little basic paper towel and give it a quick little wipe off. And there they go. And these are most of the ones that had that looser little bit of skin. When we was packing them, had a little bit more of the air holes. But definitely, you get some dirt off of there and everything, they're going to lighten up. So we got some pretty ones in there. And we're just going to keep processing them through until we get through with all of them. Definitely need some more ice. You might need some more water. But at the end of the day, this won't take too long. I'm in here working on the second batch. Let me get on here to the light, man. This mug is pretty. Open that up. Check out that sausage. So much lighter, nice and clean. My stacks are getting higher. I'll get my second, and then we'll see who's next. Okay, I have done the work. Cutting off the old grill. Last two is up off of here, and then my ice bath. Obviously it smoked a lot longer than I thought it would take, but that's all right. So they should definitely have some good flavor in there. Last one's coming off a little over 4 hours. I'm gonna get those cleaned up. I'm gonna fire up a 1 or 2, 3 or 4, and then I can taste something. Alright, we got some screaming hot charcoals over here, even though them bags look beat up. That great harder charcoal is what's cracking over here. And we just gonna go ahead and get a few of these. Grab some of the runts. I said I would find the ones that I thought looked the worst. And we're gonna get them out here and they gonna go first. And we'll kind of go at it from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these babies some direct heat. Sear these babies up. I like mine with a whole lot of char, so that's what they finna get. Do yours the way you like yours. Yeah, look at that color change. Now we're starting to look like some sausage. You take it right over there. You too, little homie. That's kind of how I like mine looking. All the way around. Don't play with me. I'm gonna probably have to close it down now, just because we getting some flare up, but you see what's going down. Okay, this baby's probably ready to slide to the side. Woo! And I'm just gonna let them go ahead and get to the point where they ready to bust open a little bit and let them, my girls, hot dogs, and I'll let them go ahead and actually feel a little bit more of some of that harder charcoal, so they gonna get double smoked. And then we'll jump into that. I think my sauce is ready. I think my sauce is ready. You gonna be the one. Because it's the biggest. That would look great though, to be honest. That busted look, a little darker. Where my tongs at? Let me grab this. Now, as you can see, I got a couple lines on there. It's got a little smoke. I'm putting it right over this fire for a hot second on these little open sides. And I tell you, God rest my godparents, Virgin and Smitty. And shout out to all my god sisters, Wanda and Tree and Shirley. And all of them looked out for us. They taught me how you supposed to cook these hot dogs. You got to burn these things, man. I like to step on them a little bit. Just a little bit. It ain't gonna hurt nobody. So I'm gonna let both of them get sized up and he gonna be the one. This is a beautiful looking sausage, man. Obviously my skin look a little wrinkled. Don't look absolutely perfect. I'm sure with a professional stuffer you can get it in there even thicker. But this right here, I got a good feeling that we're going to be on point. We're going to see what this bearded butchers tastes like. And I'm going to add you right into just a general bun. I like mine real basic. Literally, just give me a single line of some good old-fashioned mustard and I'm going to be good, but I ain't no fool. I'm going to let that thing sit for a minute. This is poison. If you touch this right now in your mouth, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. So I'm going to let this hang out for where it's worth. I'll be back in a little bit. I'm going to give me a taste of this brisket sausage. All right. Now all I want to do, hit you with a little bit of that. And it's out here. It's dark now. Got my little lights on the outside, but we're going to get a taste. I ain't mad at it. Okay, full disclosure, I'm way too hungry and I destroyed that sausage, which tasted pretty good. It tastes like it might be a little more meaty versus fatty, so it might be a little closer towards the 75-25 side versus the 70-30, but that's not a whole lot of a problem in here in my house, but I love the flavor. Let's cut this one open right here. I already destroyed the one in the bun. And I got a solid texture. I'm not mad at that at all. You can see that smoke ring. This thing is hot in my hand. But I mean, it's not just like dumb juicy. A lot of that got a little snap. Good flavor. I like it. And yeah, like when I taste that, a little bit of mustard. That's got a good flavor. Good smoke. It tastes good. And I'm just using the scraps of my brisket. I ain't mad at that at all. No question, solid use of my brisket scraps, definitely worth it. Bearded Butchers came through with that great tailgate brat seasoning. I'm definitely going to use the rest of that, and I'll make it easy on myself by separating that brisket fat from the actual meaty portions. But I'm going to catch you, my family, my boys at Black Smoke Barbecue, and everybody else I missed later.